And now it's my great pleasure to introduce our U.S. Congressman from District 37, Mr. Lloyd Doggett.
Thank you all very much. Thank you so much. Thank you for your generous welcome. If it's okay with your camera, I'm going to stay back here so I don't turn my back to anyone. Stand back here by Iris. I really appreciate the generous welcome. I was not aware that Nelson was going to make those comments or the commissioner his, and they've been friends for a long time and provided incredible leadership for the NAACP, going through some rough times and some good times. And thank you for that and your friendship. And Commissioner Trevelyan, I've been friends with since he was heading the NAACP here, before he was in office. Commissioner, you've got an event you didn't mention, because I'm going to be there to say a word or two about you. When is that at KMFA?
KMFA, August 28th, my 63rd birthday.
All right. Well, we need a lot of people there to wish you happy birthday and keep you in office. The predecessor name of this group, the Northeast Austin Democrats, played a pivotal role in my being in public office today, a very long time ago. I was 26 years old. You can imagine I looked a little different back then. And I was running in a special election against the dean of the Travis County legislative delegation in a much more conservative Austin, and 3 other people. And the Northeast Austin Democrats' endorsement was pivotal in my success. I will say, however, I've had a problem with the Northeast Democrats as NETCo at least once before. When Sandra Raguna was the head, I responded, as I often have, and I sent a check to support the Northeast Austin Democrats, or NETCo. A few weeks after I sent it, she sent it right back. And it was kind of chewed up. And it had a letter that some of you may have heard of before in it saying that she apologized, but that her parrot ate my check. So I had to do another one. I think she's moved out to Manor, but we want her involved out there. So I'm just coming from the rally that we had to fight back against the Trump takeover. It was a great gathering. I left it well in action down there, and this is a little more pleasant way of talking about redistricting inside air-conditioned comfort with friends. But it was good to have so many people out there, not just from our area, but from all over the state, to push back against this Trump takeover. I think sometimes redistricting is viewed as just an inside game that those of us that are involved in organizations like NETCo or the NAACP, we know its importance, but many other people don't recognize what's at stake. That when Donald Trump says, and this all started by him calling over the Republican members of our delegation from Texas to the White House and telling them he wanted 5 more. He wants to replace 5 Democrats with 5 Republicans. And what that means is that when we are considering why 15 million people are losing their health insurance, their access to a family physician under his big ugly bill, he wants to keep it that way. And when we are considering the question of whether there are going to be even more restrictions on a woman's health care choices, he wants more restrictions. He wants 5 more people to vote with him to do that. I had the first field hearing on reproductive freedom issues here with Donna Howard and Vanessa Fuentes and Sarah Eckhart 2 Saturdays ago. And the stories of women who wanted to have a baby but almost lost their lives because of these restrictions after a miscarriage or another mishap were compelling. And yet this administration stands in the way of that freedom. And it means 5 more votes when the issue is clean energy and fighting back on the climate crisis. 5 people that will vote with him. And it really means 5 more votes for him to do whatever he wants. We have a compliant Congress because there's a Republican majority, And when Donald Trump says jump, they just ask how high they're going to jump. We have seen within the last week further concern about the future of our democracy. Donald Trump sends in the Marines to Los Angeles over the objection of my friend Mayor Karen Bass, over the objection of the governor, with no good reason to kind of stir up more anti-immigrant hysteria out there. And this week, over the objection of the mayor of Washington, D.C., he sends in the troops there. At a time when crime is at its lowest level, serious crime in Washington, D.C. in 30 years. So you know it wasn't about crime. It was about setting the precedent for when he will use the military against us, against any of us that oppose him and stand up to him. And that's what's really at stake here. It's like him sending, we know he said he wanted his generals to be more like Hitler's. Well, his masked agents who can go out and grab a student off the streets and take her across the country is, again, a precedent being set that he can grab any of us if he feels that we're blocking his efforts. And so that's what I view as being very much at stake when we talk about redistricting. I, of course, would like to see this redistricting plan blocked, because I know that what starts in Texas with these 5 will not end here. They're targeting my friend Emmanuel Cleaver, who is the mayor of Kansas City and is a great member from one of the only 2 members of their Democrats from Missouri. They've called a special session to go after him. They're targeting a friend of mine from Gary, Indiana. We only have 2 people in Indiana, but Vance has been out there saying they need to have a special session to get rid of that person. And in Ohio, we stand to lose 2 to 3 seats because they're under court order from the state to redistrict there. The latest round, of course, is in Florida, and I know we have some regret about Florida because they really beat us out. They have, by just a hair, a governor worse than ours. And in Florida, they could pick up 3 to 5 seats. And so what happens here in Texas is so very important, and it would appear from what most commentators say that probably, maybe even by this time next week, that Texas law to give him 5 more Republicans will be in effect. If we surrender those 5 seats and we don't fight for them, then we have a real problem, not just for Texas, but for America. Every one of those seats was carefully crafted with artificial intelligence, artificial in terms of technology, but also in its focus on what matters to us. If we look at those districts, every one of them is a tough district. They have been set up to be plus 10 seats for Republicans, that Trump won it last year by 10% or more. But I think we have to look closely at those seats to see what we can do to retain them. And the one that's closest to us is CD 35, represented by Congressman Kassar. He was left with a sliver of his district. He was taken out of Travis County and Hayes County. Outrageous what happened. That seat is 57% Hispanic. Joe Biden got 49% against Donald Trump there, and our other candidates have been very competitive in that district. I maintain that we should not surrender that seat to Trump, and there's no one better able to arouse the people who are disaffected, as he has said in his messages around the country, than Greg is, and I hope that he will choose to do that. Now, there's been some objection raised to me, and it's new. It didn't come out until this Trump map came out, and my district was largely maintained. I include more than two-thirds of the people that I represent today in CD 37 are in this district, and most of the rest, including a number of you who are here, I guess east of Capitol Plaza a little bit, are people that I had the chance to represent when I represented CD 35 2.5 years ago and was coming to Northeast Democrats. But the main objection seems to be that I've been reelected too many times by people here in Austin. I just left that Capitol rally, as I mentioned, and the last thing I did was to take a photo with Dolores Huerta, who is responsible for the phrase "Si se puede." Dolores is 95 years old, and she was speaking at that rally, about the same age as when my father passed away. I don't believe there's anyone who thinks that as much as we want younger leaders and younger people in the NETCo group and all of our efforts, that we want to tell Bernie Sanders, who turns 84 next month, to stop spreading his very important message that American families that are working need to be able to do better, and those that are in the top 1% need to pay their fair share. I believe that the only way we will overcome Donald Trump is our work together, our work united, and not fighting one another. Congress will go back in the day after Labor Day. I'm sure that we'll have some resolution that Republicans will pass in the House to try to support Trump's takeover in Washington, D.C. We face a critical time in international affairs with what I call president appeasement. He can't ever stand up to Vladimir Putin. He didn't yesterday. I will remind those of you who care as much about Ukraine and our freedom and our security as I do, having passed some of the first legislation of sanctions against the Russians and wearing this Ukraine pin since almost the day of the invasion, that next Saturday at noon in front of the state capitol there at 11th Street, we will be celebrating the anniversary of Ukrainian independence. I've worked with the Ukrainian Texans, and all of you would be welcome to participate in what will probably be a hot but important and timely gathering there at the Capitol. There is much work to do in Congress in the coming months. I'll be focused there against the Trump takeover, and as necessary, working on my reelection and inviting each of you to join Nelson and the commissioner in offering your support. It's a critical time. I don't want to see division and hard choices in this community, but I'm not the one forcing them. I am simply seeking reelection and asking that you show again your confidence in my work. You know, as they referenced, that if you have an individual problem, if your neighborhood has a problem, or the city of our whole community has a problem, if you call, I might not be able to solve it. But if it's a concern that you've got, I'll try to do something about it and to work with you on it. I guess with that, let me throw it open for some questions. Thank you. And thanks.
Questions?
Yes. Judge?
What do you think about the plan to somehow or another balance any gains that Republicans make by using California to get additional coverage for Democrats?
Well, it is vital to do that, and I applaud Governor Newsom, and I'm the dean of the Travis County Congressional Delegation. The only person that is still in office from my class in Congress, Zoe Lofgren, has led this effort in California. She's the dean of the California delegation. And from visiting with her and some of our Texas representatives, I think that they have a good chance of passing that referendum. However, it may well cost $100 million to do it. It's a big undertaking and will be in November. One time, it just can't be the rule that you play fair with citizens commissions in blue states, but Republicans can do whatever they want to gerrymander red states. And that's where we've been. They have a citizens commission of the type I'd like to see in every state. In fact, we had a bill to do that when Democrats were in charge that was blocked by Republicans. But if Texas is going to do this for Trump, California needs to respond. The problem we have, Judge, is that we don't have many other opportunities to match what could happen in Missouri, in Indiana, in Ohio, and in Florida. Because states like New York, New Jersey, and Maryland have constitutional provisions like the one we should have to ban mid-decade redistricting. So they may be able to do something about this for the 2028 election if Trump doesn't find some excuse to delay it, but they can't act in time to give us the opportunity to hang on to the House this next year by retaliating. That's the situation. So thank you. Who else would like to comment? Or yes, please.
I've worked for a long time and doing house to house and postcards and all
Right.
the things that politicians do not work anymore. So what are the Democrats doing to inject something into our party that will make a difference with people? One lady called 85 people, and she then called after the election, and 8 of them she didn't call all 850, but she called the sampling. Only 8 of them had voted. The rest of them thought it was worthless because the Republicans were going to get it anyway.
Well, I've been participating, as you know, from today to the very first major protest we had here in Austin. It's interesting that actually the very first one that started, a smaller one, when I checked on the organizer, she did not vote in the last election. And the same thing happened a few years ago when I left instead of going to the Trump inauguration and participated in our great women's march that we had. Some of you were in it. We had 50,000 people here. One of the main organizers had not voted in the 2016 election. I tell people at these protests that protests are important. They help to inspire us. They show that we're not alone in this struggle. But if you stop at the protest and you're not out focusing on the election, we don't get the check that is so essential for Trump. I think we have to, I don't think the postcards are having much effect from what I see, and even the ones that are coming in. We log in everyone and note them and try to respond in our office, but I think some people just toss them aside. I think that we need certainly to have a vigorous presence on social media, that we need door-to-door efforts that don't begin in September or October of next year, but begin now. Many people have said, oh, well, I want something you can do right now. Go out and arrest Elon Musk, or do something to put a stop to this. I wish that it were possible to do that. The only thing that will be a genuine check on Trump is the subpoena power we will get if the House is in Democratic hands, and the ability to influence the appropriations and the agenda. So many of you have participated in campaigns through the years. Sometimes it is kind of knocking on the door and dragging people to the polls. We have so many obstacles that are put in our way by the state, the most challenging state in the country when it comes to voting restrictions. But we need the effort here from NETCo, not just to meet and endorse, but to be engaged before and after the endorsement process to turn people out in the Democratic primary in March and then again in November. That U.S. Senate race, some of the other races that are up, is really important. We have a chance to have a check on him in the Senate too, but it's a big uphill struggle. And in Travis County, we have to do more than our fair share to get everyone registered. So many new folks moving into town, getting them signed up and talking to them and letting them know we have a chance to have a turnaround in Texas, particularly with the U.S. Senate. Thank you. Are there any others? Yes, sure.
I wanted to be clear. Is Greg Kassar's district still intact for him, but just changed?
These districts have been reconfigured. Greg's is CD 35. He is the only incumbent, but he has been left with only a sliver of his original district, none of which is in Travis and Hays County. This district is a district CD 35 that I once represented. Before it was CD 25. It is hard to leave Austin and work in these districts. It was hard for me when I had to open an office in McAllen and represented much of the Rio Grande River. It was hard when I had to go to San Antonio and open an office there, and I never represented San Antonio. The bulk of the current, or a substantial part of the current CD 35 is in San Antonio. The new CD 35 is San Antonio centered and covers 3 or 4 surrounding counties. He is the only incumbent in that district, but I believe, even though the district has changed dramatically, that he brings the skill to give us a chance to win that seat. And I hope that he will do that and not surrender it to Trump. I've seen one projection today from someone who's run for office out here before that says, oh, we're going to lose all 5 of these seats. They're all plus 10. There's no way. If we can't stand and fight for these seats and Trump gets all 5 out of Texas, we may well not be able to take control of the House next year. So his fight there would be really important to us. Yes, sir.
So I've looked at the map the proposed map pretty closely. So Austin got packed.
It did.
While Tarrant County, Collin County got cracked, San Antonio got cracked, and the Valley got cracked. And a lot of them are 5 to 10 plus seats for the most recent election. But the Republicans normally underperform Trump by 5 to 15 points.
Indeed.
And then my next question is, how valid do you think the polls are coming from Latinos in Texas right now? Because they are swaying towards Trump in polls. And what kind of investment are we putting in as a national party into the valley, into the communities like Dean, all of these folks where they are scared and where they're going?
Well, you make some really good points and raise the right questions. When I first was redistricted towards San Antonio, the district was proposed to include Seguin. I went there and met with the Hispanic Chamber, met with the group of Democrats kind of around Texas Lutheran University. The people in control in Seguin at that time were so opposed to being connected to Austin and San Antonio that they managed to get themselves out of the district. But there is a base of Democrats there, even though it's tough territory, like New Braunfels, which I've represented part of, that I believe can be brought our way. As to the investment in Texas, I have visited directly with Leader Jeffries and other people in Washington that it's important to support the Democrats who are courageous to move to Chicago and elsewhere to fight this redistricting plan, not just now in their important role, but in 2026. I think I supported about half a dozen state Democrats last year with contributions. And every one of them, save one incumbent, lost. We have to turn that around. If we are building toward the 2030 redistricting, and I thought 2030 was next and redistricting was out of my life, it didn't turn out that way. But if we're building toward the 2030 redistricting, it's critical that we have more influence in the Texas legislature. And so I think I have a commitment that Texas will be given adequate resources next year, hopefully even this year, to begin reaching out, not just to Hispanics, but especially Hispanics in South Texas. We cannot, one of the counties when I got sent to McAllen that I represented was all of Starr County. That's the one that had the big switch to Trump, as you know, and some of the rest of you, Rio Grande City and Roma. And we cannot lose those counties by those kind of margins and win Texas. And so it's critical that we get more resources there.
Have you looked at what happened in Southwest Travis County in the last election? It was the only Latino community in Texas that went left. They invested a lot of money in paid door walkers, people who spoke their language and looked like the people in their community. I think door knocking works, but it has to be the right people in the right places.
You're right. And I believe one of the people, and depending on how far southwest you're talking about, who helped in that effort was Constable George Morales. He had a great campaign. He told me he went 9 times walking through the community, and he started early and listened to people. And I think that's a model of what we need, not just in Travis County, but all around the state.
I personally think if we do something like that, we bust it and we get more than 5 seats. And
I think, again, CD 35 is the place that we have the most potential. Yes, sir.
Yes, I thought that. In watching your career, I think you've been one of the most effective campaigners ever. You know, I mean, they can change your district, but you still went there and won it. I think I'm the co-chair of the Texas Democratic Party's Tech Council, and I think that people don't know how gerrymandering really changed the character of an area. And I think for, you know, and of course the Texas Democratic Party itself is ruled by gerrymandered district people. So whatever the maps come out, if we can get in those gerrymandered districts and organize compact communities, we can still change that narrative. What's your experience with how it's organized?
Well, I think as we were just talking about reaching out, the kind of effort that George led in Southeast and some of Southwest Austin is the kind of effort that we need. It's time intensive, it's expensive. Our state Democratic Party is having a lot of challenges. I understand they're moving the office to Dallas and as a cost saving venture around the new state chair. So it's going to be tough, but we need to target those areas. The other thing I think we have to do, as I mentioned, 5 or 6 seats last time that were outside of Travis County that I supported, is we've got to identify those seats we think we have the best chance in. I do think, and you referenced polls, I sense, not just here in Austin, but across the country, that there are a lot of people who are as concerned as we are about the future of our democracy and the future about what happens in their family budget. I think Trump was at a high in 24 in places like CD 35 and these other districts, but I think we have the potential to be at a high if we organize and start early enough. And that's what I believe can overcome what appear to be sure Republican victories in these 5 seats. David, I know you follow the numbers about as well as anyone around.
Yeah, I'm looking at South Texas, and I'm looking at South Texas to some degree. Yeah, this election in 2024 was very shocking, to say the least. I think that there probably is going to be less support for Republicans among Hispanics in this upcoming election. The turnout vote is a factor in South Texas in a non-presidential year. But the one thing I want to point out is that Monica Dela Cruz, seat District 15, that she won and was ballyhooed is that Hispanics are becoming Republicans. If you look at the numbers closely, you'll see that really what they did is they attached a lot of Anglo voters who are Republicans. The Hispanics voted for the Democratic candidates. It's just that there was such an overwhelming number of Anglos attached on the northern end of that district as an example, that tipped the balance to the Republican. And so, obviously, 2024 was really a shock to all of us about how dramatic. I think that gets to the issue about open borders and all those kinds of questions and how that affects people in South Texas. Because I talk to people in South Texas who come here when they talk about how hard it was to find jobs in the South and the border because the labor issue became so hard for people because they couldn't get the salary to the pay because they could hire cheaper labor, and basically that made it hard for them. And so they were angry and voted for Trump on a number of occasions in my conversation with them. I don't know how they feel now, but I suspect there's been somewhat of a moving away in light of what's been happening with ICE. So we need to play on that, and I don't know if there's any polling specific to that area of South Texas. But clearly, there should be some opportunities for us to regain some of the ground we had if they'll invest the resources into it.
Well, thank you. I think you're absolutely right about that. I think that there were some people who were ready to pull the ladder up and concerned about how they were affected economically by immigration. I thought one of the turning points during the first Trump administration, and I represented all that area when I had the Valley, was to see them literally tearing babies from their mother's arms. And that time, there was enough public outrage. That's the kind of public outrage we should have when a student is torn off the street by masked men, the way it happened for that Tufts students and some other places. And so we have in the big ugly bill a huge increase in the budget for ICE to build detention facilities and the like. And I think so much of the immigration battle is about personalizing it. That this is not a number. This is the person that serves me. This is the person that takes care of my mom. This is the person who's doing the construction work. And they're good, hardworking people doing work that many people we would not have but for them. And if we can personalize this story more about immigration, we have a better opportunity to not have it used as a weapon against us. Yes, sir.
I just wanted to say that $150 billion that was appropriated to ICE, I think that was the amount, was $160 billion, I'm not quite sure. It strikes me, having sort of read a lot about how Hitler came to power, that ICE becomes the new brown shirt army for Donald Trump, basically. And I expect that this ICE operation is an extension. Now, I'm not much of a conspiracy theorist. I don't get into all those conspiracy things. But it just strikes me that this is an army that Trump is building for himself, independent. And he's going to use that money to hire the kind of people that will take the orders and do what he wants.
Well, it's not, it is that certainly, and it's the way he has dismissed people in the military leadership to try to take over the military, the way he has turned the Department of Justice into a Department of Injustice, put conspiracy theorists and people that defend January 6th in charge of the FBI and the CIA. My concern is we got to either stop him now or we may not be able to stop him. And that's why what happens here in Texas, we do our part and see that he doesn't get all 5 of those seats. I see one more back there, and then I think probably we're near the end of your time, but I want to be sure and get it. Yes.
I think it's really important to build a bold agenda and put that forward to people, not just scraping up the tatters of the Social Security that's being wrecked, the Medicaid that's been wrecked, but really talk to people about what Democrats represent in their beliefs. And I think that can win. And I think that understanding that, Sylvester Turner died in March. Did Abbott try to do anything? No. But when Trump said 5 seats, did Abbott try to do something? I mean, bringing it to very specific representation, democracy issues, I just think that's so important right now.
It is absolutely important, and I think most of you are familiar with that, but I was representing our delegation at Sylvester's opening reception, a joyful event. Here, the mayor of Houston now taking Sheila Jackson Lee's position. And he was there the night Trump made his outrageous speech before the Congress, and later that night passed away, a great loss for us. And Greg Abbott's response was to delay the election to replace him until November to keep us from having that one vote. Now our friend Al Green, who shook that cane at the president, is faced with whether to run in that district because of the way they've altered their goal to eliminate half of our African American members of Congress. Mark Vesey up in the Fort Worth area facing a similar situation where we're left with only 2. Yes, sir.
Just really quickly, it would be helpful for us locally to look at the DOGE cuts that have impacted Texas. Money coming out, all of the funding that was taken out, healthcare, Medicaid, and also Social Security. We're having to make a lot of decisions at the County Commissioners Court and at City Council to fund things that we normally would not fund because dollars have been taken away from us. It's also important to recognize that, for emergency services, the Biden administration offered us dollars that we did not take, that the legislature did not take.
That's right.
And so just to be able to identify for people the volume of dollars that were turned away and how now we have to go to referendum to put local dollars back would be important.
That is so very important. The biggest category, of course, being the refusal to extend health care coverage through Medicaid. I've stood in a room in San Antonio when I represented San Antonio and had to explain to a family that they were too poor to get health care because the state did not expand Medicaid and they would not qualify for the marketplace. It's a painful story. It's inexplicable. But it's Greg Abbott and before him Rick Perry who wouldn't help on this issue. And I think one of the reasons that we have this very controversial city tax election coming up is because of the federal funds that have been cut there. So we've got to tell that story. As for Doge, as the author of the Sunset Act concerned with performance efficiency audits, this wasn't about efficiency. It was about a body count showing how many could Donald Trump say I fired of the federal government. Yesterday afternoon, with Hands Off and with a retiree group of labor officials, we had a celebration of the 90th anniversary of Social Security. I do have a few years on me, but I wasn't there for the original meeting. But we had a group there at the Capitol to celebrate, because it was actually 90 years ago yesterday that the first Social Security got underway, when we had a president who really did make America great again. And there was a woman there from AFGE who represents Social Security workers up in Temple. She told me that the day before, there were 11,000 calls, more than 11,000 calls, waiting to try to get through to Social Security. That's what happens when you cut workers below the level that they've been. And it's another way of the Republicans trying to dismantle Social Security, just as they have attacked the Internal Revenue Service by assuring they don't have the team that they need in order to deliver those services. So those 5 more votes are going to be 5 more votes, if we can't stop it, from Texas to back Trump up. You remember when he ridiculed during that speech I was referring to, that Sylvester's last one to hear about somebody who was older than America, 350 years old, that was getting on the Social Security roll. He went on and on. Well, that seemed kind of crazy, and that's because it was a lie. Social Security doesn't pay those folks. They have a much better error rate than many private carriers have, but it's part of convincing us that this fabric, that anything that has social or public in front of it is somehow bad, and that Donald Trump's friends can earn a buck from privatizing it. And that's what's at stake in the election we have next year. I'll just close by saying this. I had the choice to step aside, but I've never felt that our country was in greater peril. And I think the background and the experience that I bring to dealing with the intricacies of some of the issues that we face there, the kind of thing that motivated me to stay up all night long offering amendments and fighting the big ugly bill, is something that we need, right along with the young leadership that we want to include in our party, that if we all stay united instead of fighting one another, we can overcome this and save our country. That's what I'm a part of, and I appreciate and ask for your support in continuing to do it. Thank you.
Yes, I don't want to get home.
I will also put this out there. My house will be a distribution point for Lloyd Doggett yard signs.